Hola estudiantes, it's Señora Palma, and today we're going to be going over 3.05 Escribamos una encuesta. By now you're familiar that every time we have a 0.05 assignment for whatever module, it's the writing rough draft. And usually this rough draft is once it's corrected, will be part of the final draft for the examen part 2 assignment, which is the assignment that you submit after you take the multiple choice portion of the exam. So for this module, we are making una encuesta, and if we click on here, we see it's a survey. So you're going to have to gather some information for your survey. So you're going to be asking some of your classmates about a survey. So in order to create a survey, you have to use question words. So in this lesson, in 305, page 2, we learned about question words. I also sent many of you a little song to the tune of Jingle Bells. That is a great way of remembering the question words. So here are all the question words, and also on this page it shows you how you form a question in Spanish. Step 1, you have to write the inverted question mark. Step 2, you write your question word, and don't forget the accent marks. Accent marks are part of the vocabulary, or rather part of spelling. Then you write your verb, which is step 3, and then noun or pronoun if necessary. Comes or come usted. And then step 4, you complete your question with any other important information for your question. Okay, just remember that in Spanish we start with the inverted question mark, and do and does are included in the verb when you ask that question. And in English, you always use a subject or subject pronoun, but in Spanish, you don't always need it because you know it by the conjugation of the verb. On page 3, we learned a little bit about the rough draft. So you had to figure out what exactly you wanted to include in your survey. So think about what you want to have at your party and what your theme will be. Maybe you want to have dining, customs, or food around the world, dining with your friends, or a cafeteria party. So it gives you some options. Dining customs around the world, dining with your friends, a cafeteria party. Okay, once you have selected your theme for your party and what you want to serve at your party, ask yourself what options you want to ask your guests about. Don't forget to take notes and use la plantilla antes de escribir una encuesta. This was given on the very first page of this lesson 3.05, and by now this is the note-taking guide for any 0.05 lesson. So hopefully by now you're in the habit each time you open a new lesson to use your note-taking guides. So now we know we're choosing a theme. We have 3 options for our theme. We know we have to use question words. We know the question words are on page 2. We know how to write a question because we saw the steps, the 4 steps of writing a question. And we know we have to use la plantilla to fill it out. That's what we are submitting. On page 4, we are encouraged to get organized with our pre-writing, just like you would in English. So ask yourself some questions. How do I write and answer questions? We know we're asking our friends, so we're being informal. We only know the yo form, the to form, which is the informal when you're asking your friends, or the él, ella, usted form. So we know we're going to be using the to form when we are creating our questions. What grammar do I need to know about how to ask and answer questions? How to conjugate regular verbs. We've already covered AR, ER, and IR verbs, as well as the verb gustar, querer, and preferir. What personal information do I want to collect? Do I want to collect names, ages, etc.? What are my guests' preferences regarding food or drinks? Since this module is about food, we want to keep it focused on the theme. What are some different eating customs I may want to enjoy at a party, as we've been studying about different customs and different eating habits? And any other information I want to take away from my survey. So, Spend a few minutes thinking about what information you want to know. On page 5, we have an example of understanding the format. So here we're shown some examples of how to ask and how to respond to questions. ¿Cuál es tu nombre? This is a question we've already learned in Module 1. Second, ¿cuántos años tienes? Another question that we're familiar with. ¿Qué prefieres, el uniforme escolar o la ropa regular? ¿Te gusta la falda o el pantalón? ¿Prefieres la camisa o la camiseta? ¿De qué color quieres el uniforme? Here are some great examples of questions, writing how to write question words, how to include the question word in the question, how we conjugate the verbs in the to form, things that we have been covering throughout the lessons. On page 6, we're given some suggestions, some sample questions that you may want to ask. And here it shows you how you form questions, as well as how you would, if you click on the boxes, it shows you how you would respond in the yo form. So here are some tips. As you're writing your survey, you want to make sure you always start with la plantilla antes de escribir. Always. Use simple sentences. Remember, even though you may be a high school student and you're in an advanced English class and you can write and expand your vocabulary in English, for this class, for Spanish 1, you have to think this class in a Spanish-speaking country is comparable to kindergarten, first grade. So we're just keeping our sentences very simple. And use the vocabulary you already know, incorporating what we learned in lessons from Module 1 as well as Module 2. So when we get to the actual assessment directions, we've learned how to ask and answer questions in Spanish. We've created survey questions that you and your friend answered. You mastered conjugating AR, ER, and IR verbs. If you need some help in that, you might want to check the drop-down menu on the announcement page, as we did cover those as well in live lessons. You prove that you know how to use subject pronouns. You've learned how to use the verb gustar from Module 2. You learned how to use preferir and querer in this module, Module 3. We learned about food and drink and borrowed words. We learned about the borrowed words from Spanish to English. An example would be tacos, Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday has become synonymous in pop culture today. Or burrito, or nachos, or jalapeños, or salsa, or chocolate. All of those have been words that have been added to the English language. So, when you're planning to do this assignment, complete the following steps in order to create a plan for your survey. Write your questions and answers of at least 5 question words. And the verbs, the ones to like, to have, to want, to prefer, and to use. Remember to use vocabulary words and borrow words and the verbs to drink. Remember, in this lesson, we're using tomar for to drink and to eat, comer. Answer the questions for yourself using complete sentences. Remember to use the yo form. Select which friend you will be surveying. Answer the questions, those same questions that you created regarding your friends' responses. So when you open up La Plantilla, it tells you include a minimum of 5 questions. You must use at least 5 of the question words. The question words are on page 2 of this lesson. You have to have one question using the verb tener. So, tienes in the to form. Gustar, we learned in Module 2. Te gusta when you want to ask a question in the to form. Tomas, prefieres, quieres. Ask one more question about eating customs in English. That's the first part of this plantilla. The second part are mis respuestas. For mis respuestas, you have to answer those questions from above in the yo form. So you will answer the questions that you wrote here in your responses in this box over here. Just like on the top, you wrote the questions up here. Then the last part, you're going to answer the questions to your best friend. What did he say? What did she say? They are answering they answered the very same questions that you did, except now when you write their responses, it's in the él, ella form. You do not need to repeat the questions that you wrote in part A. You just write the questions once in part A. In part B, you will record your responses, and in part C, you will record your friend's responses. That's all you have to do. If you have any other questions or concerns about this assignment, you can reach me directly. Let's make it a great day. Adios.